Welcome everyone to today's webinar. We're going to give it just another minute or two as people are still joining. So welcome everyone to today's webinar. My name is Suzanne Carowin. I'm with NAIFA, and I'm doing the host today on behalf of both NAIFA and the Society for Financial Service Professionals. We have a collaborative agreement in which we are able to bring great content, such as Stacey McMahan, our guest speaker today, to the advisor community, so we can really talk about where everything is going, bring this type of thought leadership, right, and really further engage and create excellent advisors, continuing other people that are industry professionals, such as estate planning attorneys, CPAs, et cetera. And both of our groups are welcome to have those people as members. So if you're not a member of either group, we totally believe that you should join. You can always go to NAIFA.org to join, or to FSPs at fsp.org.join. And all of this is on behalf and in collaboration in something that we call the Advanced Practice Center. You can find us online at theapccenter.org if you want to check out either organization. And Stacey McMahan has been with us actually since the inception of the Advanced Practice Center that we've done in collaboration with FSP now for over 4 years, I want to say, Stacey. Stacey comes to us from Advanced Designs. She's had 14 years with Pac Life. She's an absolute master of her craft, where she's always an excellent presenter. And so I hope you joined us today also, not just to listen to Stacey, but maybe to also get some continuing education credits. So as a housekeeping note, we will be doing polls throughout this session, and then afterwards we will send an evaluation. So please fill out that survey, because we'll use that as part of your continuing education as well. And maybe you're saying, hey, this material is so good, will you have it on demand, and will the PowerPoint slide be available? And the answer to both is yes. We'll house both at both the apccenter.org, as well as I'm sure we'll have it in FSP Go if you want to use that at a later date. So with no further ado, I want to welcome Stacey, and of course, I want to thank Pacific Life for lending Stacey to us and then supporting our Advanced Practice Center, NAIFA, and the Society. Stacey, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Carla, all the other folks that have been behind the scenes making this happen today. So thank you all for joining us. Looks like we have a great crowd today. I want to start off this presentation with the fact that this is a very popular topic because it's multiple topics. We're not looking at just one type of planning for our business owners. As you know out there, your clients have many, many different planning needs. So we usually have a presentation where we'll talk about retirement planning ideas using life insurance, cash value life insurance, or hey, what do we do for business succession? But this is actually going to cover a business owner and his family throughout several decades, and the different planning needs that arise. And we call this opportunities abound, because the point is, maybe your clients are squared away on the retirement side, but they haven't done any planning for the business. Maybe they need some key person, or maybe they need some business succession planning. We are going to talk about retirement planning for your business owners here today, as well as that business succession planning, and then also a little bit of estate planning, because as you may know, and as you probably learned from talking with your clients, they have especially your clients who have a larger estate, they have a very specific potential problem that can arise when they're doing their estate planning, and we'll tackle that, not just the estate tax liquidity part of it. Certainly life insurance, as we know, can assist with that goal and address that goal. But there's a couple of nuances we're going to talk about there today. So without further ado, all right. Thank you to our wonderful compliance team, making sure we're getting all these disclosures out there. I don't need to remind you all of this, but when a business owner is running their business, right, that is the heart and soul of their life and their time and their day. But the business owner who doesn't do any planning is going to have some disappointments in one of these areas. So certainly saving for retirement. We'll talk about some very common misunderstandings that business owners may have about how they're going to do that retirement planning. And maybe some of your clients are completely on track, maybe many of them, which is great. But for those that may need a little bit of playing catch up, we have some ideas for that business owner. Certainly establishing a succession plan or an exit plan if they don't have an identified successor in mind. What are some ideas on that planning aspect? And then of course, protecting the family. So all these, I call this kind of doesn't look like a stool, but maybe a bird's eye view here, but it's our three-legged stool. And if one of those legs comes down, right, the whole stool is going to come down. We want to make sure your business owners are protected completely. All right, so just some information to stick in your hat for a conversation later down the road if you're talking with one of your business owner clients. So I kind of stir them up to prick their conscience a little bit and help them understand, hey, if there's any holes in your planning, I want to make sure we address all those. So business succession planning, a lot of business owners are planning on selling their business to be at least a part of, if not a majority of their retirement savings portfolio, right? There's some things that can happen there. Maybe they are just valuing their business on their own. Pacific Life has some resources for you, not just written materials, but we have some discounts with some valuation firms that can help your clients if they need to do some valuation. Maybe their CPA is just perfectly capable of running that valuation, but we just want to make sure that your business owners are well prepared and they can see, okay, this is what my business is worth now. Let's keep that up. Maybe the last valuation that you had was 5 or 10 years ago. That's not going to cut it, probably, right? So I want to make sure that they're planning for their business succession planning, and also those two are linked, right? That retirement planning. So if your business owner is planning on selling the business as part of their retirement or not, a lot of them probably do need a little bit of touch up on the retirement planning aspect of it. So we'll talk about some ideas there. As we can see, 3/4 of Americans are falling short of even a conservative retirement savings target. So for those business owner clients of yours who do need to do some catching up, we've got some great ideas. And estate planning, this is the unique aspect I was talking about here. If your business owner, if that's their business is the major asset of their estate, what's going to happen with estate planning, right? If they're planning on they're selling their business, maybe their business is not even there when they're passing away. But a lot of times people are working, later than their expected retirement years. What do we do? What do we do to help those business owners? If they're going to have some estate liquidity need and they don't want to sell the business, they want to get the business down to a son or a daughter, or maybe multiple children. Let's look at some ideas on how we can help them. So we just look at these as not issues, of course, but opportunities to help them address all of their planning needs. And of course, some of those may involve life insurance. And we'll talk about how those strategies work with life insurance. Again, successfully transferring the business, just some stats out there. I mean, that's a huge statistic to me, 35% of business owners. I bet it's even higher than that. That's my suspicion. It's higher than that because we talk to producers all day long, and yep, that's what they're planning on doing, selling their business, at least as a partial retirement savings vehicle. Are they planning enough for retirement? Are they saving? This is generally all Americans, not just business owners, but 80% of Americans fear they're not going to have enough money for retirement to last them. So what the conclusion of that is, we don't want your clients running out of money, at age 75, 80, we're all living longer. That number's got to be, at least the goal number probably needs be a little bit higher than it did even 10 or 20 years ago. Then of course, providing for their family. Everybody needs to get some basic estate planning in place. If I were to be there in person with you, hopefully someday we'll be back in person. I know that's coming soon. I would have a hand raising session. How many of you have done at least some basic estate planning? You have a trust, a living trust together, or at least a will, maybe a durable power of attorney. I'd have a raising of hands, or maybe I would do it just, without raising hands, because it's, I am inspired by this presentation, because as I was preparing for it, I thought, I can't get this presentation if I have done nothing. So my family and I are just recently getting some of that stuff together. I know it's way overdue, but get your clients to get some of that basic estate planning done. Now with our business owners, where the family business is the largest asset in their estate, what do we do with that estate planning? But also if we have a client with some family members who are not business, they're not involved in the business, they're not the business heirs. We call them non-business heirs. And we have some ideas for that. We can have life insurance to help provide if for that non-business heir. If the majority of the business or all the business is going to two kids, and the other kid is just getting the house and a 401k, and the business is worth, tens of millions, or maybe even less than that. But you get my drift here. We don't want to make sure we're equalizing the estate and taking care of all the heirs that the client wants to take care of. All right. Keep looking at our slides. We're not quite to the first polling question yet. When we look at business succession planning, certainly we want to get some kind of buy-sell agreement in place. Either cross purchase is one type, or entity redemption is another type. And many of our business owners, clients that we hear about, they have something in place, but a lot of times it is not properly funded. Maybe it's funded with term insurance. That's a start. But a term insurance policy is not going to help with a lifetime buyout. Only cash value life insurance will help with a lifetime buyout. That term is only going to work if there's a premature death. And of course, a business can use a cash value life insurance policy for many other things. Let's say if it's an entity redemption, we're having the business own the policy. That policy can double as informal funding for deferred comp. It can double as, or triple in this case, as like key person insurance. So many, many opportunities there for the life insurance sale. For retirement planning, this is our bread and butter here. I would say if there's a death benefit need, you have a cash value life insurance policy that's typically individually owned. And then, of course, we have that access to withdrawals up to basis, and then switching to loans after that. All that is, or should be, income tax free to the owner of the policy. So they can use that for supplemental retirement income, whatever other financial needs. And one thing we're going to talk about today, another idea for retirement planning using life insurance. These two are pretty much it in the life insurance world. You may be aware that life insurance can be owned inside a defined benefit plan, and we call that a split funded defined benefit plan. And there's a couple different benefits, pretty big benefits. We'll get into detail on that in a few minutes, but this has to be the right type of business owner, right? This is not for everyone. Of course, any qualified plan has to be non-discriminatory. They have to offer it to all eligible employees, which is a special definition by the Department of Labor. So the third-party administrator needs to make sure everyone's on board with who those eligible employees are. A little bit more bells and whistles to that, right? If we want simplicity and we want to do a cash value life insurance as a LIRP, we call it life insurance for risk protection. A LIRP policy that works for almost everybody, I would say. For estate planning, of course, we're going to talk through how that death benefit proceeds, how that can work to provide that estate tax liquidity. And we have a special strategy that is a little bit niche, I would say, niche. And it happens to work with our couple, our family that we're talking about today. But just to give you another idea to open up for the right client, it can work really well. All right, so here's our first slide showing us our case study we're going to walk through. This is their first decade, 43, and then we're going to look at 53, and then in their early 60s for estate planning. Now, this does not mean, just so you know, you have to go in this order. You could do all three of these in the same year, same decade, whatever. But I would say for the estate planning in the 60s, that's probably getting toward the upper end. We want to make sure you're getting these estate planning documents together and you're buying the life insurance before it starts getting egregiously expensive, right? Those life insurance premiums just go up, increasing significantly as we get older. So we want to make sure that's done sooner rather than later. And I wouldn't say retirement planning needs to start by any stretch of the imagination in the 50s, but it just works out really well for this particular couple, Jack and Cora. So they have three kids, 3 adult kids, and they have a great profitable business. Jack is a partner. As we'll see, his partner's name is Austin in the business of JPL. So there's 2 partners here. And then Cora, his lovely wife. So we're going to talk about all three of these planning areas. Let's pull up that first polling question, Kevin. Oh, thank you so much. All right, so just if you want credit, answer this question. You don't have to get it correct. There's not really a correct answer on these, but just answer that. It will take 20 seconds here. Do your business owners have a buy, sell, or exit strategy in place? And is it funded? Yes, most of them. Yes, only a few. No, but some need to. And not sure. So just give us your answer to that. Trying to make these quick. So we have 4 of these polling questions. So I want to make sure everyone has time to answer it, but we need to get through it quickly. All right. Thank you so much, Kevin. All right. Our first topic here, business succession planning for our business owner here, Jack. Now, Jack is the owner. He has, as I said, his business partner's name is Austin. And here are Jack's goals and concerns, right? He wants to set up a cross purchase. He could set up an entity redemption. We'll look at why we're going to use a cross purchase here in 2 bullets. He wants to, well, I guess the next one here, accumulate cash for future financial needs. So if we had an entity redemption, that means the business would be owning the policy. With a cross purchase, we're having individually owned or normally cross-owned policies. So let's take a look at our third bullet here. He wants to own the policy on his own life. He wants to pay reasonable premiums. Maybe Austin is a little bit older, a little bit less healthy. So if you have cross-owned policies, Jack would be paying the higher premiums, right, on the policy on Austin's life. And then also, Jack's concerned about outliving the need for a buy-sell. What if the business just goes kaput and they don't need the buy-sell after all, or he works, they both work through retirement, and they don't need a buy-sell or whatever the need is. We just want to have that individually owned life insurance policy. And we don't typically see that with a cross purchase, but what we're going to do is set up a slight twist on the cross purchase called an insured-controlled cross purchase. It's just where we have individually owned policies instead of cross-owned policies. And then a key point here is that Jack and Austin are partners in JPL, and it's an LLC taxed as a partnership. All right, this is not to go backwards and start doing statistics again, but just a reminder that this is what Jack and his partner have been dealing with. They've waited a little bit of time. He's in his 40s, but it's an okay time to start planning. But he knows, I need to really be thinking about this. Nothing is guaranteed. A lot of businesses do pass to a successor or to a family member unexpectedly. There's a death or there's a premature disability or something. So Jack has been thinking about that, and he knows, hey, we want to make sure we get this business over to the other partner and get that all squared away. So for family businesses that do want to pass to the next generation, which eventually Jack will probably want to do, but at this point he's getting it over to his partner Austin. But for those who want to pass it on to the next family and to the next generation, only a third, less than a third, 30% pass to the next generation, and even fewer, I think it's about 10% pass to the third generation. So that planning is very, very key. You can still have a buy-sell, even if it's a family-owned business, certainly. So just keep those things in mind here. And we bring up this information too here because we want to make sure that you're aware, we want to make sure they selling the business for a fair price. That's where that valuation comes into play. Very, very key. They don't want to sell it for too little money. They don't want to charge too much money, or put the price out there for that's too high and never even get to sell it because it's too high and nobody takes the bait. But we just want to make sure you're aware. We have a lot of baby boomer business owners. Tons of them are retiring in the next couple of decades. So again, opportunities abound. And then another statistic that just boggles my mind, and I do believe this one, it may be higher, but almost 75%, 72% of business owners don't have any succession plan in place. So again, opportunities for you to go out there and find these business owner clients if you don't already have them in your world, and help them do some planning. All right, we could spend a whole hour just on insured controlled cross purchase and the other types of buy sells agreement, but I'm going to try to sum it up in this chart just so we're all aware of hey, why did we decide to go with this insured controlled cross purchase? And you can see on the left side there, Jack wants to receive an increase in basis. Can he do that? Well, typically not with an entity buyout, at least not a full increase in basis. I just want to clarify that. Depends on the entity type. If it's pass through, then get a partial increase in basis if there's a premature death. But if it's a C corporation, then no, definitely not to. If you're getting a traditional cross purchase or an insured control cross purchase, we're doing the buying out among individuals. So yes, there is that full increase in basis when there's a death or there's a lifetime departure as well. So those, the only times you get that is with some type of cross purchase. If you want the insureds to own their own life insurance policy, the only way to do that is to do the insured controlled cross purchase. The entity buyout is a business owned policy, and traditional cross purchase, is cross owned policies, right? If Carla and I are in a business together, I would own a policy on Carla, she would own a policy on my life. But here, Jack wants to own the policy on his own life, so he can access that cash value for other things if he needs it before the buy sell, or if the buy sell is for some reason not needed in the future, and he doesn't want to pay those additional premiums. Now, looking at the complexity, if the buy sell is not needed in the future, keep talking about that. Anytime you have cross-owned policies or business-owned policies, what happens when you want to get that policy over back to the insured? There's going to be some taxation, right? If the business distributes the policies, that's going to be a taxable event to the recipient, to the insured recipient of that policy. If you're traditional cross purchase and you're cross-owning policies, you may have to pay some gain if they got to sell those policies back and forth to each other. That's going to trigger some taxation on the gain in the policy. There's typically no gifting of policies in a business situation, probably even if it's a family business. But with the insured controlled cross purchase, we just unwind that buy sell. Now we're ending with these individually owned policies. If they've been in place for 10 years, great, we can start accessing 10, 12 years, usually the rule of thumb there. We can start accessing that cash value for whatever financial needs. All right, I know a lot of information here. I'm definitely available for questions. I see some popping up in the questions box, but definitely type your questions in there. Hopefully we'll have time to take a few questions at the end. And here's our diagram. It's kind of a lot going on here, but just focus on the left side at first. Here's our agreement, our buy-sell agreement. It's just going to be a cross-purchase agreement. It's not a special agreement because the funding is what's different, right? We're getting that cross-purchase buy-sell agreement in place. And what we're doing is we're adding a little private split dollar agreement because we have to get that death benefit over to the appropriate party. So Jack will have a policy on his life and endorse over a portion of the death benefit over to Austin, and vice versa. Austin is going to buy a policy on his own life and endorse a portion of that death benefit over to Jack. So Jack's paying his premiums, Austin's paying his premiums. That's much cleaner. The diagram looks a little crazy, but that's how it works. And that REB, that's the reportable economic benefit. Anytime you have a split dollar agreement, the recipients need to account for whoever's receiving that death benefit that's endorsed to them. They're receiving a term benefit, right? So they have to account for that, and usually that's just imputed as taxable income to them. And that continues as long as that split dollar agreement is in place. So it gets a little more complex with the agreements. You have to have an attorney draft those up, of course. And when Jack, let's assume Jack dies first. So Jack passes away, the death benefit portion of it goes to Austin, the rest of it goes to the estate. We want to have enough going to Austin that he can purchase Jack's portion of those business interests from his estate, right? We're getting those business interests go to his estate, and Austin is buying them back with that death benefit that was endorsed to him. So pretty simple at the end. It's just a matter of having two agreements instead of one agreement and accounting for that REB. That's the only complexity it really adds, but it definitely keeps that individually owned life insurance, which is the way that Jack's wanting it, in Austin, presumably. All right, so we always talk about the pros and the cons to keep it fair and balanced here. I look at these as advantages, and then the disadvantages, I would say these are just rules to follow. Follow these rules and they won't really be disadvantages. With our pros on the advantages side, they retain that control. Each one has control over their policy, which is what they want. They don't have to pay those additional premiums for the other person's age or health status. They're able to access that cash value via loans and withdrawals. And obviously, Trish says they really should receive, and we call that technically not a step up, but it's an increase in basis in the business interest. And I say, why, Stacey, do we need that partnership? Well, because anytime we're cross-endorsing the death benefit over to the other owner, the IRS sees that as a transfer for value or a potential transfer for value. It's not a gift. They're obligated. So that's the consideration, right? That's the value part in the transfer for value. What happens if there's a transfer for value violation? The death benefit becomes taxable. So the only way you can not violate, if you have a transfer for value, which we do here, if they go forward with this strategy, they're doing that transfer for value. That transfer to partners is one of the exceptions. There's 4 exceptions to the transfer for value rule, and partners in a partnership is one of those exceptions. So they have to be partners. The partnership does not have to be the business that is subject to the buy-sell. They just have some somewhere in the world under U.S. federal law. They just have to be partners. And then we have that exception to the transfer for value rule. And we keep that death benefit tax-free as it should be. So again, certainly individually owned life insurance policy is going to be includable in their estates. If they get into an ILIT, that's going to cause some complications. So you probably want to have, you're using this for people that don't mind having that life insurance individually owned, because it is going to increase their estate size when the death benefit is paid. And then, as I mentioned, we have to account for that reportable economic benefit, the REB, each year. And that does increase each year, but it doesn't really start getting problematic until I'd say about age 70 or so. But usually folks are out of the split dollar or the buy-sell in this case by that time. All right. And then we always try to talk through the some call to action here. Do your fact finding. Does your client have a successor in mind? When or how do they want to retire, if at all? If they don't want to retire at all, gosh, we have some other types of planning to make sure that they can do that, right? Maybe they don't have to worry about as much retirement savings, but they might want to have, plan B in case that's not their choice, right? Something happens, a disability or something. Family members to consider. Here, we're not talking about getting the business down to the family members yet, but we might need to make that change later in life. So just make sure your clients are aware of, what needs to happen now, what could happen later. Make sure you're getting the right type of buy-sell agreement for your clients. A lot of times, it's going to depend on the clients, right? If you have a bunch of owners, it's either going to be insured-controlled cross-purchase if there's a partnership in place somewhere, or an LLC tax as a partnership, or we probably just want to go with an entity redemption, because if you do a traditional cross-purchase with too many owners, that's going to be way too many policies and very expensive. So determining how the business will be valued, get that valuation expert in there. Again, we have some discounts through Pacific Life. If you're curious about that, let me know. And then just making sure that plan is funded, right? It's only as good as the proper funding for that buy-sell. So just some things to think through, your call to action there. All right, now we're gonna look at our retirement planning. We've got the buy-sell in place. We've got it funded properly. We've got those life insurance policies there. Now we're gonna take a look at 10 years down the road. Jack's done very well. The value of the business is now $2 million. They're doing great. And he wants to retire in just about 9 years. So that's a pretty happy, aggressive goal there. Glad for you, Jack. You want to retire age 62, but definitely wants to make sure that Cora and their adult children are taken care of there. Now we can see here in that bottom section, Austin's, for whatever reason, no longer with the business. He went off to greener pastures or something. We'll just assume that they parted ways. So now it's just Jack running the business. He has 5 employees and steady cash flow. and there is an existing 401k plan in place. And now when I see these facts, I guess I'm a little bit of a retirement planning nerd, but my bells start going off in a good way for a great strategy, our split fund defined benefit strategy. Before we hear more about that, let's pull up our second polling question. All right. Now, are your clients saving more for retirement? How many of your clients are saving more for retirement? Most of them should be saving more. Many should be saving more. Or maybe a few need to be saving more. Most are all set, or you're not sure. We just have these questions. Usually, when we have a little bit more time, we can kind of share the poll. But if you're curious, you can get with Kevin or Suzanne and find out what people said. But just click your answer there so you can get credit. I think we've seen, a few need somewhere in between a few or many should be saving more. That's what I've seen most commonly. Thank you, Kevin. All right, so we're going to forge ahead here and see what we can do for Jack, Cora, as far as retirement planning. 70% are concerned that they'll not have sufficient savings. That's a little bit of a mind-boggling. I remember, if you're paying attention, there was a stat earlier that said 80%. That was all Americans that are concerned about not having enough for retirement. This is just the business owners. The 70% of them are concerned for saving. So they gained a little bit of a 10% edge on the rest of America, but that's still a lot. That's still a lot of business owners that think they have a need to bolster their retirement savings. So again, great opportunity to have this conversation with your business owners. 59%, now this is just pre-retirees. It's not all Americans or even all business owners, but 59% of those who aren't even in retirement yet are concerned. And here's a couple of reasons why. Maybe they still have a mortgage, right? That age-old advice of, get rid of your mortgage before retirement. It's getting harder and harder to do that for a lot of folks. Or they have children's college to help pay off, or maybe a big wedding or something. Inflation, as we all know, is hitting as it kind of needed to raise a little bit, I think. But anyway, we just want to plan for what's going to happen in retirement. Retirement is lasting longer and longer these days, and we want to make sure your clients are well prepared for that. We're living longer. It's a blessing and a curse, right? Yes, we're living longer. Great medical benefits and technology has helped us, but we're needing to save a little bit more because of that. People are healthier, eating healthy food, exercising. We're doing everything we're supposed to be doing. So we're living longer, so we need to save more money. It's kind of a two-pronged thing there. With economic uncertainty, certainly what's going to happen, the year you retire, we talk about sequencing of returns and making sure that you're not pulling out money that's where the investment is down. So there's always some ideas we can help your clients tackle those uncertainties and all these questions. There's lots of reasons why folks are really uncertain about their retirement savings. And some retirement options, like just a slew of retirement options. As you can see here, we have our qualified plans options, defined benefit plans, or defined contribution plans. Well, we are going to talk about one of those types in a little bit here. But defined contribution plans for your higher income folks, what's the issue with that? Well, the issue, of course, they're only able to put in, what is it, 26,000 this year, 2022, and that's with the catch up for those 50 and older. And the total contribution amount with employee and employers is only 61,000. So those who want to put 100,000, 200,000 away for retirement, they're constrained by those DC plan limits. We'll talk about DB plans that don't have that. They do have other limits, but not the contribution limit. Non-qualified plans, sure, we could do a SERP, a supplemental executive retirement plan, but that doesn't work for our pass-through owners very well. Couple reasons for that. There's just not that tax leverage. We're putting in after-tax dollars to informal funding, and it's coming out taxable on the other end. So not a great idea. Great idea for a non-owner executive, but not for Jack here. An alternate plan, as I mentioned earlier, a LIRP, life insurance. Should be calling it life insurance for risk protection plan or life insurance retirement plan, funded with a bonus again, that's great for an owner. Yes, the business is getting a deduction, but it's not going to a non-owner here. It's going to Jack. So he's getting a deduction through the business, but he would be paying tax on that bonus as well. So it kind of removes a little bit of that tax leverage there. So we are going to focus on our DB plan for Jack. This is a big slide here. Not a lot going on, not as many boxes, but just again, we have a whole presentation just on this one topic. But what is the split funded defined benefit plan? It just means that it's funded with both investments, mutual funds or stocks, other investments, and life insurance. And why do we have life insurance inside a DB plan? And we'll see a chart here in a few minutes. But the idea is that we are protecting those business owners, those participants. Could be a business owner, could be employees. Everybody has to be included. Anybody who's eligible has to be included in the plan. We're protecting those folks via the Pension Protection Act, which allows life insurance to be an incidental part of any qualified plan. That's because if someone starts contributing, say we set up the plan when they're 52 and they prematurely pass away age 53, what is the family getting, right? Very minimal, because they were only contributing for a year. So the life insurance death benefit comes in and provides that, fills in that gap, right, for the survivor benefit. Again, we're providing that life insurance, so we have to account for that reportable economic benefit. Usually that's just imputed as taxable income to the employee for each year that insurance is in place. We call it the term cost. Again, very cheap until we hit about age 70. But at that point, 72 for sure, at that point, the plan should be, the policy should be out of the plan. So that REB goes away. The policy is owned by the plan, and the plan is also the beneficiary of that policy. So the death benefit proceeds would pay in at the insured participant's death. And then whether it's, it's a lump sum or usually it's going to be some kind of lump sum going to the plan beneficiaries, as well as the death benefit. The death benefit pays tax-free to the plan, and then that all flows out to the beneficiaries. Of course, the investment portion is going to be taxable to those beneficiaries, but a majority of that death benefit proceeds would be tax-free. And then we can chit-chat about the calculation of that, but most of that death benefit proceed is going to be tax-free. So it's a great way to provide for our owner, Jack, here. He wants to do some additional savings. He doesn't want to rely on the sale of the business to Austin or to a third party later down the road. He wants to be proactive. All right. This is where I was talking about that. Let me show you how this works with the life insurance in there. This is our after-tax survivor benefit with and without life insurance. So we're putting about the initial death benefit is 1.8 million. It's an increasing death benefit. At some point, they may want to turn that to a level death benefit, but it depends on the policy. We're putting about 114,000 of premium in for 6 years, and then the policy should be able to grow accordingly. That cash value should grow, and the death benefits continue to grow. So we can see here at age 53. Remember, we're just putting in. We're starting at age 53, and then they're dying, let's say, in that same year after they make that initial contribution. So very minimal is available to the survivor benefit in that first year, but we do have that almost $2 million death benefit. So really, really huge protection for that family. 10 years later, we've got about like 1.6 or 1.7 million saved up in this DB plan for Jack here. And but we have, with life insurance, it's a total of about, it's like 3.3 million. So you can see the benefit. It's very clear. It is age sensitive, right? Our DB plan is really targeted to help those who are in the mid 50s, because when you look at contributions to a DB plan, you can start putting in, the 6 figures when someone gets into their mid 50s, because they're so close to retirement, right? Age 65, let's say, for full retirement, or it's going to be increasing 66, 67, depending on how old you are. Let's say 65 is retirement age. If someone only has 10 years, they can pack away a lot more. Now it's based on the max retirement benefit that could be paid out in 2022, which is 245,000, and then they work backwards to figure out what that what that contribution, that total maximum contribution could be to the plan. The idea here is work with a business owner, has very few employees. Jack has 5 employees. He is only going to have contributions to those employees. There's only 5 of them. And it helps if they're much younger, right? Because the younger you are, the business's contributions can be much lower to those plans. And it also helps that Jack has that 401k profit sharing plan in place, because now we cross-test, what's called cross-testing, between the 2 plans, both the profit sharing plan and the DB plan. And assuming Jack is making very healthy contributions to that profit sharing defined contribution plan, then he is going to be able to skew those DB contributions more for himself and any other highly paid executives. So it has to be all the board. The Department of Labor will be checking the TPA's numbers and making sure it's not top heavy. We just want to make sure that all those I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. But you can just see the clear benefit here of having life insurance inside there. There's very specific rules about the maximum amount of life insurance, but as you can see, it's enough of a benefit that can help with that family. They're getting that additional about $2 million of life insurance over to the survivors. All right, what happens to the life insurance at retirement? Typically, if you have a defined contribution, defined benefit plan, it can be a lump sum payment at retirement of those investments, or it could be like a single annuity. It could be a joint annuity. Just depends on what is available under that plan. Now that's the investment side of it, but what about the life insurance side of it? So that policy cannot remain inside the plan after the participant retires. It's just a Department of Labor rule. We can't change that. So a couple of options. There's 3 options you see there. We can surrender the policy inside the plan, or we can get the policy down to the participant insured via distribution, or we can sell it to the insured participant. And again, that's a transfer for value, but because your transfer to the insured is one of the exceptions to the transfer for value rule, so no issue with the death benefit becoming taxable there. I'd say, why surrender the policy? When you surrender that policy, hopefully there's no surrender charges. It's been in place long enough. There's not going to be any surrender fees. But now everything that's inside that plan is going to be 100% taxable to the insured when they retire. So why not just get the policy out? And usually it's distributed because that's a cheaper out of pocket, and then also you don't have to worry about money changing hands. You just distribute the policy to the insured. That's a taxable distribution. They are going to have to pay taxes in that year of the distribution, and now they have an individually owned life insurance policy. Remember, we talked about the alert policy. Now they have this individually owned life insurance policy. They can start taking withdrawals and loans now. I think that this is a great time to mention that sequence of returns. You have an asset here that is going to give you tax-free withdrawals, and then switching to loans later on. But if your investments are down, don't sell those. When you retire age 65, 66, you have investments that are down, you have a life insurance policy to draw from, start drawing from that policy, and that's tax-free. And then you can have your investments have a chance to rebound, your clients' investments have a chance to rebound up there before you sell those. That's part of the taking the RMDs. And by the way, a lot of people ask is, can the policy go into an IRA? And it cannot. A life insurance policy cannot be owned by an IRA. A lot of the investments can be transferred over there to the IRA, but not the policy. We have an alternative planning idea here, and that is just have a separate policy outside the plan. Now you don't get the pre-tax. Usually it's pre-tax dollars going into the policy, right? Paid by the plan. But if you're not worried about that, just have that alert policy outside the plan to help pay those taxes, or again, obviously for retirement planning. let's clear up our next polling question. All right. Again, just you're getting the pattern here. How many defined benefit plans using life insurance have you helped clients set up? More than 10, you're the gold star winner today. 1 to 10 or none so far. So on a typical presentation with time, we'd take a look at these poll answers. Just curious. But if you haven't done this, it's good to have obviously a good third-party administrator. We have materials we can send you to help give you some education on that as well. All right, to make sure you get your answer in there if you're looking for credit. And we'll pull that down. All right, thank you so much. All right. Okay, here's our pros and cons here. We're getting a pre-retirement death benefit for heirs, right? We have that gap insurance there for if there's a premature death, someone passes away in their 50s and they haven't had time to save money for very long. Definitely helps those heirs. It does not reduce the promised retirement income benefit as opposed to a defined contribution plan. If we're using life insurance inside a DC plan, it does reduce the retirement income benefit. Let's say we have $61,000 a year, including employee and employer contributions to a defined contribution plan. If we use 10,000 of that for life insurance, that means we only have 51,000 left over to go into the investments. So it is going to reduce that retirement income benefit on the DC side, but not on the defined benefit side. Again, getting that current life insurance protection using pre-tax dollars, you do have to account for the RUB, which is on the right side there, the cons, the disadvantages here. So a little bit of a cost, but again, it's much cheaper than paying those premiums out of pocket. With the just have to make sure that we're not discriminating, and the life insurance amounts that I mentioned are limited, and it's a calculation that the TPA should be aware of. We're not using 100% of the contributions to buy the life insurance. It's going to be up to 50% or possibly lower, depending on the type of policy. And then again, as I mentioned, the policy inside that qualified plan, that is going to be includable in the participant's taxable estate, unless they get that policy distributed to themselves and then gift it to an ILA later. And then, of course, we take care of that taxable inclusion issue. All right, lots to think about here. I'm going to zoom along ahead because we're getting down to 12 minutes before we're wrapping up. Just again, making sure we're looking at those clients. I say we look at split-funded defined benefit plans. Someone's their early 50s, mid 50s, only a few employees. If you got more than 20 employees, it's going to be very expensive. Maybe that'll work for that employer, but mostly not. And it really helps if those employees are much younger than the owner or the other highly compensated folks. And then I'd say bonus icing on the cake is they already have a 401k profit sharing plan in place, because then they can do that cross testing, and it allows for even more contributions into the DB plan than if they did not have a 401k plan in place. So just talking about all those questions with your clients, figuring out what could work. Maybe alert policy is the better idea for some of your clients. So it's just about customizing it to what your clients' needs are. All right, now we're looking at our estate planning. I'm going to bring up our fourth polling question here. Lovely quote by Winston Churchill. I think that's usually more for charitable, but we're talking about getting down to the kids here. What are your clients most concerned about right now, or most of your clients concerned about right now? Is it retirement? Is it business succession planning, or estate planning, or something else, right? There's dozens of strategies and dozens of planning areas that probably need to be tackled. So just click your answer there, and we'll pull that down in a couple seconds. Waiting for people. All right, wonderful. All right, so just gonna zip through this really quickly here. Estate planning, there's their fundamental estate planning, right? Just getting some basic stuff done. If you want to use it, gifting, for those folks who are in the fundamental area, they're not worried about that doubled exemption right now. For those that need to worry about reducing their estate, GRATs are still a great way to do that. IDITs, talk about sales to an IDIT. Sometimes a charitable trust can work, or even dynasty trust for getting things down to third and future generations. So we're going to focus on is our estate tax liquidity. If there's, we've reduced our estate, we've kind of done some estate freezing things, but hey, if we still need some estate tax liquidity, what are some ideas? All right, for Jack and Cora here, wow, company's just gone gangbusters. It's now worth 45 million. Jack is now, of course, the sole owner of JPL. Remember, Austin was out last time we talked. That business value, I'm sorry, the net worth is 45 million. The business is worth 30 million, still very healthy there. Their son Daniel is active in the business, and they've already used up their doubled exemption to get some JPL interest over to their son Daniel. The key here is we want to make sure we're providing that estate tax liquidity. They're definitely going to have an estate tax problem with an estate of 45 million. Remember, under the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, that double exemption is going back down to 5 million per person in 2026. With indexing, we think it'll be close to about 6 million per person. But this is great. Jack and Cora have used up their exemptions. Well, now the problem is, so how do we get more of these assets down to more of the business down to Daniel? We've used up all of our gifting, and now the business is the majority asset of their estate, right? So 30 million out of 45. We're gonna possibly have some estate taxes, and we don't want to have to sell a part of the business or the whole business to help pay those estate taxes. And Jack wants to use the business dollars to pay those premiums for the policy. This is just talking about if we're just doing a straight ILIT, an irrevocable life insurance trust. This is the go-to strategy to provide that estate tax liquidity. For Jack, we don't have any gifting available, and you do need to have some gifting unless they're doing an IDIT sale or something like that. But these are ways to help pay for those premiums. If there's not gifting, we can do some borrowing, we can do some premium financing, but there's always complexity to that. You need to have a certain client, and then there's always the need for an exit strategy. So just great things to talk about on another day. But for Jack here, what we're going to do is mainly because he wants to use those business dollars and to pay for the premiums, and he has already used up his gifting. So how are we going to do an ILIT? He doesn't want to do premium financing. He wants to keep it simple, right? These are for clients that want to keep it simple. They've used up their gifting. How can we provide this estate tax liquidity? Well, an entity redemption, typically we're thinking, right, of a buy-sell strategy. And it is, but what we need to do here for Jack is set up an entity redemption so that the business can own the life insurance, and that life insurance will not be individually owned by Jack. So that keeps the life insurance policy from being directly included in Jack's estate. But the question is it indirectly included in his estate? Because he does own the business outright. He's the sole owner of the business, except for Daniel. He's gifted some of the assets down there, let's say maybe 5 or 10%, but the bulk of it is going to land squarely in Jack's estate. So we want to have a way to have this business own the policy. You can see there at the bottom there, we've had a couple of appellate court cases in the 9th Circuit and the 11th Circuit talk about the death benefit coming into the business at Jack's death, in this case. Does that increase the size of the value of the business? Does that increase the value? Because we have this huge, maybe 2-3 million, and in this case we need 20 million of face amount of life insurance for the estate tax liquidity need. Is that going to add to the value of Jack's business interests, and then by nature of that increase his estate? Now we need even more liquidity. 2 appellate court cases have said no, that money's coming in, but because we have that entity redemption in place, that money's going right back out. So it's not a windfall. It should not be included. The death benefit should not be included as part of the valuation of the business. So that business gets the policy, uses the death proceeds to redeem the portion of the decedent's owner's interests, or maybe all of it. We want to make sure that there's, Jack doesn't want to use an ILIT. He's used up his gifting, as we said. So this might be our way to help Jack. I think it's going to fill in here slowly just to show you how it works here. Again, Jordan Pharmaceuticals, JPL, is going to buy the $20 million life insurance policy on Jack's life. We don't have any REB here, so there's no split dollar, but it is business-owned life insurance, so we do need to comply with 101J, notice of consent. The proceeds come over to the business. It goes right back out to the surviving spouse. The business uses that $20 million to buy the business interests from Jack's estate, and then the estate obviously uses those proceeds to pay the estate taxes, or maybe even state estate taxes, or any other expenses related to the estate there. And then, of course, surviving spouse's will is going to leave any remaining stock to Daniel. So this is a great strategy for those who want to use those business dollars. Let's go to the next slide here. They have a closely owned business. That's the major part of their estate is this business. They don't have any gifting capacity, and they want to ensure that the business continues after their death. Obviously, we want to get that buy-sell in place. They want to use those business dollars, and they don't want to cause estate inclusion. I just want to add a caveat. I mentioned those 2 appellate court cases. There was another case, the Conley case, that came out, I think it was late last year, late 2021. And it had a little bit of a different answer, a little bit different conclusion. So I just want to make sure everyone's aware. And it was a different circuit. I think it was the 8th Circuit in Missouri somewhere. They came to a different conclusion, but I've read it. I think the facts are quite different, and how the calculations looked a little bit wonky to me, to put it informally, because they ended up they wanted to increase the value of the business, although the numbers just, we don't have time today to get into it, but we can talk offline if you're curious about that. But I just want to put that out there. There has been, and it was a district court case, not an appellate court case, so a little bit lower in the court system. I just want to put that out there. It just has to be for the right client. The client and their attorney obviously have to be very comfortable with this strategy. We think it can work for this very specific type of client in these specific circumstances. So just give that a thought here. If your clients don't fit this protocol here, this client profile, then it's probably not going to work for them. There's many other ideas. We can do an IDIT sale. We can just do an ILIT. And one common question we get is, hey, we have an existing policy. You see that down there on the existing ILIT. That's great. But if we have an existing policy, can I gift that into an ILIT? I'm going to create an ILIT so I can gift that policy. It came out of my DB plan or whatever. Can I get that into an ILIT later? Yes, you can. But the grantor has to survive, the insured has to survive 3 years in order to keep that death benefit out of the estate. So for someone who's younger, 50s, 60s, no health issues, it's probably not as huge of a risk. But someone a little bit older, 70s, now we're getting into a little bit more of a risk that they may not survive that 3-year period they would need to keep it out of their estate. So a ton of information. I know it's like drinking from a water hose today. Just want to thank everyone again for joining, and I'll turn it over to Suzanne.
All right. Thank you so much, Stacey. Always awesome. So we have a couple of things we want to do just to wrap up. Many of you missed the 3rd poll. So Kevin, if you can go ahead and launch that. This is kind of like your extra, right? Make sure we get you situated. And then Stacey, we've had an amazing set of questions come in too. And I know we're out of time, but what I promised everybody is that you are more than happy to, for us to either dialogue or write up an article and get those going. And we'll add that to the collection that we have of our thought leadership in the Advanced Practice Center. And again, Stacey is a real speaker in the terms like she's a constant presence in our Advanced Practice Center. So if you missed it earlier this year, we do go out into and actually have live events, like actually face-to-face and live streamed. We're going to have one that's coming up in Philadelphia, the 29th. Stacey won't be at that one, but she's at many other, and she'll be there in 2023. But where Stacey will be, if you happen to be in the Pasadena, Los Angeles area on October 13th, you will actually be able to be with Stacey in person, right? And have that conversation and hear more amazing information from her. So with that, I'm going to again, thank you, Pacific Life. Thank you for sponsoring this. Thank you, Stacey McMahan, for being a part of Advanced Practice Center. We love doing this in collaboration with the Society for Financial Service Professionals. And again, more great programming will come out your way. And we do have other webinars available on demand that Stacey has also done, as well as an on-demand Impact Week that we've done in the past as well. So stay tuned to the work that NAIFA and FSP are doing. And with no further ado, I wish everyone a great rest of your day and see you next time.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Suzanne.